across the planet with all conflicts and wars combined. How deadly do you have to be able to achieve something like that? This was stated by the UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazarin. He said that this war is a war on children. It's a war on their childhood and their future. An 8-year-old girl was asked, "How does your dad get food?" She replied, "Dad is in Jannah, heaven. We miss him. We miss everyone. We miss everything." And as she cried, looking into the camera, she said, "We miss white bread." Another boy said, "Mahmoud and I were playing on the phone. The house was bombed and we were surrounded by smoke. I was talking with Mahmoud, so the rubble went into my mouth and the rocks fell on my back. Then my father came and took us. My mother went to get clothes from under the bed and all the rubble fell on her." 7 months ago, children comprised 47% of the population of Gaza. Nearly 26,000 children had been killed or injured in Gaza in the 6 months of this cycle of violence, in this cycle of a genocide that has decimated the health system. Those who survive stand little to no chance of receiving adequate medical treatment in a land that has been stripped of all essential services. And nearly all children in Gaza are at imminent risk of famine, a man-made famine with murderous intent. In the years past, we've witnessed the silence of the world. We've witnessed how authorities have silenced dissent and restricted protests. We have seen soaring numbers of arrests and administrative detention orders used to punish Palestinian activists. Palestinian children are held without charge and for years on end. Small children have had years of their childhood wasted behind bars. Nowhere in Gaza is safe for children. If they haven't been killed, they've been maimed. If they haven't been starved, they've been detained. If they haven't been detained, they've been beaten. The list of atrocities goes on. But outside Palestine, the tide is turning. And perhaps that is not enough. The irony that Palestinians are restricted from raising their own flag on their own land, while the entire world has been raising the Palestinian flag, is not going unnoticed. The world stands with Gaza. Today, Rafah isn't just burning, it's being razed to the ground with genocidal intent to wipe out all Palestinians. There is no other explanation for what we are witnessing today. Israeli authorities are growing ruthless in their attempts to crush all opposition to the apartheid system. And that ruthlessness no longer differentiates between a baby and a force of resistance. And I would remind everyone that according to international law, an occupied land, the people of an occupation have the right to armed resistance. They have the right to freedom. Just 2 days after the ICJ had ordered Israel to halt its operations in Gaza, Israel targeted a deadly strike on a refugee camp in Rafah, a so-called safe zone, somewhere people were told to go, somewhere where people were displaced. Air raids on that Sunday triggered a deadly fire that engulfed tents in a camp for displaced Palestinians. Time and time again, we have witnessed people being told to move to safe areas, only to be targeted by the onslaught of bombs. Today in Gaza, we see the pillar of resilience. We see the backbone of resistance. I have never come across a population so steadfast in faith while standing and staring back at death disguised in various forms. But the unwavering faith of an entire population does not clear us of our moral duty to stand on the right side of justice. While Rafa Burns protesters here in the UK and across the globe are facing unprecedented pressure to yield to authority, we have seen countless university students across the length and breadth of the nation and beyond stand up in solidarity with Palestinians, and they dedicated themselves to the cause of Palestinian liberation, holding their universities accountable for the complicity in the genocide of Gaza and the genocide of the West Bank. The University of Exeter remains complicit in genocide, and while the university seems to believe that their racist past and murderous present can be covered up by changing their logo, their lies are more palpable than ever. To the university, you cannot preach sustainability and equality, diversity and student welfare while arming Israel. You cannot contribute to the massive CO2 emissions from Israel's bombings and promise green futures. You cannot silence pro-Palestine students and promote social justice. And you most definitely cannot talk about health with the blood of Palestinian civilians on your hands. Finally, I'd like to leave you with two very short but harrowing poems written by the Gazan poet Musab Abu Toha and his dear friend Rifat Al-Arir, who was killed by an Israeli airstrike on the 7th of December 2023. But before reading the poems, I'd like to say a few words about these two storytellers. Abu Toha honoured his friend Rifat Al-Arir by sharing memories of his friendship. He described him as a friend who shared picking strawberries together and playing jokes on him on campus. In an interview, he was asked to speak about his significance and how he died. Musab responded by saying first that his friend's death was not unique, and that at the time of the interview, Al-Arir's body was still under the rubble. He also shared the following: I'd like to remember Rifat as someone who was always ready to listen to our literary works. He liked to read some of Shakespeare's sonnets, of John Donne's poems. He was a huge fan of John Donne. I would like to remember Rifat as someone who loved, past tense, who loved to go to strawberry farms and pick strawberries with me and play fun games. Rifat is someone who didn't want to die. Rifat wanted to tell the stories of ordinary Gazans so that ordinary people